every guy who pretends to forget his wallet on a date 1,000% sleeps on a futon or a mattress on the floor. So she gets guys to send her a picture of their bed before she shows up and deducts points for sleeping bags as blankets, even if they do have a headboard, because sleeping bags are floor energy, which is true. If I was going to meet a guy at his house after a few dates, let me phrase this very carefully, if he had a sleeping bag on his bed, I would probably leave.
Hey, I'm Les.
And I'm Ree. This is Not That Kind of Book Club,
a bookish podcast where we read it so you don't have to. Hey guys.
Welcome to episode 3.
Yeah, we are super excited. Today we get to talk about our book club read. But before we get into
that, of course, let's take a minute just to acknowledge the insane wildfires that are happening through northern Saskatchewan, Manitoba right now, because it's affecting our air here. It's affecting so many people who have properties up north, and just sending goodness out to that. Let's send some thoughts of rain. We definitely need some just moisture.
I am sending all of my thoughts to those who have been evacuated and those who are essentially or could be losing their homes or have already lost their homes. I think that even just seeing some of the pictures, it's absolutely terrifying. And I've had a lot of conversations about this where you'd go outside and you're like, wow, I can't breathe. This is terrible. Like, I hate smoke. But just kind of changing your thoughts to, it might be really smoky here in Saskatoon, but I couldn't imagine up north, and we're just kind of sending our best that direction. I feel like it's very important to acknowledge.
Yep, because it's devastating communities right now.
Yeah, so taking kind of our own deep breaths here, emotionally and literally. We're going to dive into something a bit lighter for our episode today. But before we dive in, I have a question for you, Ree.
Ooh, what's up?
So let me figure out what my question is. I actually know what my question is. I just want to word it correctly because then it will sound better than the improvisation that's in my brain.
Yeah.
But what is the best Starbucks drink ever, or your go-to coffee place for coffee? And we're going to discuss why yours or why mine is the best, because nothing goes with books better than caffeine.
Okay, I'm pretty plain. I will gladly take a latte, iced or hot, with just a couple Splenda. Okay. Just a little bit of sweetness. It's super basic. You can go pretty much anywhere, and it's going to be relatively the same thing, just the coffee blend changes a little bit.
Okay, so the worst part is, like, I kind of agree with you. I have two different moods for coffee.
Yep.
If I'm waking up in the morning, I love milk and coffee. It's my favorite thing. So that's pretty much what I make in the morning. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm going to put it out there that one of the best coffees when you need something sweet or caffeinated or milky, whatever, is Starbucks caramel macchiatos. That is completely basic, yours. But it's just like my go-to. And like realistically, it's pretty much a latte. But you just go, and sometimes it's like, you know what, I only want like half sweetness, and it still just hits that spot.
Okay, if I'm going to Starbucks, I'm probably going to get a blonde roast, skinny, sugar-free vanilla latte.
Why should, like, I get sugar-free, but I'm also like,
I don't also like
give me the caramel. Like, line my cup with caramel.
Okay, fair.
Is there sugar-free caramel?
Probably.
I should just ask for sugar-free caramel. Whatever. It's my guilty pleasure. You want to know the worst part?
Caramel is sugar syrup.
You know what?
You can get sugar-free everything.
What if we make a caramel sauce out of Splenda?
There's an idea.
I don't know.
You know what? Possible. That sounds like I'm going to have to do some work in the kitchen, and I just don't feel like doing that right now.
If anything, I like when I have a latte, I put brown sugar in it. I don't know what it is. I just love brown sugar, and that's what I put in it, and it just makes me happy.
Brown sugar's
But,
tasty.
okay, I got to tell you this story. So
Please.
yesterday, well, it won't be yesterday when this episode airs, but I had just had one of those back-to-back really long days, and my friend who I was working with at the time, like, we're not even working at this point. It's his job, I guess, but it's not my job. I was just kind of there to support.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I need to get a coffee. What do you want? And he tells me what he wants, and I pick them up. They're on the table, and let me preface, I'm freaking tired at this point. Like, I need like 8 hours of sleep to function, and I think I got 5. And I know that sounds bad because there's so many people that only get like 3 or 4 hours of sleep, but like my body doesn't function because I have to take medication at night, and then I can't wake up. But that's not the point. Point is, I'm sitting there, I'm doing some calculation things for him, and I accidentally elbow my coffee off the table. Not even his coffee.
Your own coffee.
My coffee. I had one sip of my coffee, and then it was on the floor, and I literally sat there and I just stared at it for a minute because I didn't even know how to react. And then the papers that I was working on started flying away.
The disappointment.
And he's like, you can't let them fly away. And I'm just staring. I'm like, I just dumped my entire coffee on the ground. And he looks, he's like, oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, the devastation.
And I'm just like, man, why couldn't I have knocked the iced chai latte off the table? Why am I caramel macchiato?
Not my own drink.
No, it's very sad. But okay, let's talk about this month's read. I also have it right here.
Just for the summer.
I actually just gonna come back to it. I love this cover. I really love this cover.
It is super cute if you look at it closely. You've got the two main characters. You've got the dog that is also named Brad, for those who have read the book.
I mean, if you know, Chad is the pen name for Brad.
Yes. Yes,
also,
it is.
there is a reading group guide in here, hey? And I didn't realize that till right now. So now this is intriguing. Wow.
Ooh,
but some of these questions have very long answers.
Yes. And also, this is part of a series, so we didn't read the first couple books in this series.
Yeah,
but
so I think it's
you know what?
That we didn't read this part.
Let me give you a quick synopsis on what this book is actually about. Like, this is essentially like the back page of the book that is talking about. I did finish this. I enjoyed it thoroughly. But so Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. It's a romance that starts with a Reddit thread and a wild idea that somehow makes perfect sense. So Justin believes he's cursed. Every woman he dates finds her soulmate just after dumping him. When Emma slides into his DMs claiming the same thing happens to her, the two hatch a plan, date each other, break up, cancel out the curse, which in theory should be easy, right? So it starts as a lighthearted experiment, turns into something deeper when Emma, a travel nurse, ends up on assignment in Minnesota, where Justin lives. Cue a cozy island cottage, surprise family obligations, Emma's emotionally volatile mother, and two people who didn't mean to fall in love. It's supposed to be just a summer fling, but fate might have other plans.
I was going to say, they did technically break the curse.
They did.
That's wild. I just thought of that. Sorry. Yeah. So I kind of wanted to start this off with kind of like what were the key takeaways of this book and what we liked, what we disliked. So I think the biggest thing here is it's like a fake dating book.
Yes.
But it has that twist to it, right? Where it's like it's starting with a Reddit curse or like the Reddit theme and kind of turning into something more heartfelt. I know a lot of people who don't necessarily like romance.
Yep.
This one reads a lot like a women's fiction book. So
yeah,
it isn't that predictable romance. It's heartfelt. There's moments where you laugh, moments you cry, moments you smile, and moments you just want to close the book and walk away for a bit. You go through so many emotions just reading through this book because there's so many twists and turns that you are really not expecting at all, especially not having read the first 2 books in the series. Yeah, and I find like Emma and Justin, they're both very lovable characters, and they kind of become those characters that you root for. And I know like in a lot of romance books, yeah, you root for the main characters. But at the same time, this one is just so much, it's so different because they have all these other things in this curse and all this stuff that's kind of gone on in their lives that you don't know until you read the book. But it's one of those things where I'm like, no, like I actually do want them to kind of end up together. I will. Yeah.
I was rooting for them the whole
Yeah.
time. And you've got Emma, who's got mostly an anxious avoidant attachment style they talk about in the book. And so she's a 1 foot out kind of girl the entire time you're reading through the book. So it's okay, can she get through this? How is she going to get through it? How is she going to break this attachment style and be able to stay with Justin? Because you want them to be together. They have such a cute little story.
Well, and especially as a travel nurse, right? Like,
yes.
Wanting to stay. And I feel like, again, if you read the book, she kind of planned it in a way for her to stay in Minnesota because she did kind of want to explore this. She was very curious, right? And I think that this book itself is, for reference to, like, when you read certain romance books, like, some can get spicy, or some people don't like that part of a book, right? They don't want to read that. They want more of a closed door romance,
which is what this is.
And I would say it's an open door romance, but it's not, how do I word that? Like, it's not like an overbearing where, like, you're in the room watching them have sex.
One sex scene.
Yeah, like it's light, emotionally grounded, and it's very, very easy to skip if that's your preference.
Big time.
But I think the biggest takeaway I'm going to mention is, if there's any book that you're going to read over the summer, it should be this one. You guys will love it.
And it's a fairly easy read too. So I originally started it on audiobook and then ran into having some extra time at home. So I flipped back and forth a few times between reading it and listening to the audiobook, which I really enjoyed doing.
I actually did the same thing. When I started, it was the audiobook, but I also was trying to, like, pinpoint sections on Audible, and, like, it works fine, but, like, it gives you like 30 seconds. And I'm like, I would rather just open the book and find what I was looking for than go back and listen to it. Yeah, is what I learned. But this book is really and truly for those who like romance and those who are very into women's fiction.
Yes.
I also think that it's not your go-to genre per se, and you might be surprised as to, like, how it does read as both those genres. I also think, like, people who aren't afraid to read about real heartfelt issues and things that potentially could be traumatizing or triggering for people, right? Because a lot of the stuff that happens are real things that could be happening. It's not like those romance books where it's like, this happened and this happened and this happened, and you're like, the actual likelihood of that all happening is not realistic. But this is, like, it's a very real, and I think it will resonate with a lot of people.
Totally. I mean, you have the topics of Emma's mom being emotionally unstable, to put it very kindly. So she's going through a lot of different things with that and having to open up wounds from her childhood with all the abandonment issues that she suffered.
And then you have Justin with an incarcerated mom.
Yeah, and all of a sudden he's taking care of 3 young kids.
Yeah.
His little siblings.
I was going to say, and 3 girls.
No, Alex is a boy.
I forgot.
Yeah,
Yes.
Alex, Sarah, and Chelsea. But they've got a bit of an age range in there.
There's a large age gap if you think about it, because Justin's not in his teens, which, another thing, I resonate when, like, the main character in this book, she's 28 turning 29.
Yeah.
I am also 28 turning 29. So for me, whatever, you can just lie and say you are. But for me, I read this and I'm not like, oh my God, why are you acting like this? Because if I read about 16, 17, 18-year-olds, you're like, when I was 17, I was not doing this shit.
Ooh.
And, like, Kate, like, to the extent that some of them are. But this was it was kind of nice just being able to read something that kind of resonated, and I felt that it was realistic, especially as someone the same age, right?
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing too is this is actually a really great book for a book club, because there are so many things that you can touch on. And this is definitely one of those books that if you did a book club where you touch base every week, it would be a really great one. And if you're somebody who is touching base just at the end of the month, again, there are so many pieces that you can kind of work through and dissect in this book that I think it would be perfect for a book club.
I think so too. I mean, we did it for our book club, so why not do it for your in-person book club? And there's some really, a few of the amusing things that I read through and had to stop right away and make notes of them is Maddie and Emma are talking at the beginning about different kinds of red flags and green flags in guys. And Maddie says he's got a bed frame, which is a green flag because the closer to the floor the bed is, the worse humans they are. Every guy who pretends to forget his wallet on a date 1,000% sleeps on a futon or a mattress on the floor. So she gets guys to send her a picture of their bed before she shows up and deducts points for sleeping bags as blankets, even if they do have a headboard, because sleeping bags are floor energy, which is true. If I was going to meet a guy at his house after a few dates, let me phrase this very carefully, if he had a sleeping bag on his bed, I would probably leave.
Well, and like
the sleeping bag, one pillow thing.
But like, when was the last time you washed your sleeping bag?
Exactly. Do you have sheets on the bed too?
Because like, I'm not trying to be gross here, but like, I don't know when the last time I washed my sleeping bag was, because I don't use them anymore for camping. But like, even if you did wash it and then rolled it up and then used it 5 years later, I'd probably wash it. It's gonna be dusty. And then like, boys are gross.
Boys are gross.
So in that
full stop.
Yeah. So in that same chapter, I like, sorry, I had to find it because I always like pinpoint them on Goodreads, and I'm like, hey, I don't remember. But the one friend says, I don't see any red flags here other than he's got a J name. J-named men are the worst. And I was just reading that, and I actually full stop agree with that. So I mean, you can't full stop agree with that.
No, I can't. My partner has a J name, so you know what? He's the exception to the rule.
And Kay, I can't remember where it is, but do you remember when Maddie said, "Oh, you just want to add to your spank bank"? I literally cackled, and I had to like pause in the audiobook, and I ended up texting myself from like text to text. And I had to send it to myself because I was like, I need to remember that. That's freaking funny.
There was another good one pretty early on in the book where Justin is talking to his aunt, and she's talking about going on a Bumble date in half an hour. And he says, I'm going to audiobook read this to you guys. It's just a small section. Justin, I pulled my face back. A date. What happened to George? His Aunt Lee. He's gone, Justin. May God rest his soul. He blinks at her. Your boyfriend died? Well, he's dead to me. And I was like, oh my gosh, the sass of this lady.
I kind of love it though. And like, that's just, yeah. And like, this is an aunt. Like if my aunt.
Oh my gosh, it's all of a sudden
also like
Bumble dating.
I feel like I can't even picture this because like all my aunts are married to my uncles. And like, if I had an aunt who was not married and like that was the reaction, man, I think we would be best friends.
Oh, I think so too.
Yeah, like
I keep
telling my mom and my sister, I'm like, okay, let's like create these dating profiles. I want to see kind of what the people are out there, because I've been in the same relationship since I was 19. So like the dating world has changed, and I'm not saying I want to be in the dating world, please. No. You couldn't pay me enough. No. But like I do think that that's hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
And like
he's dead to me.
He's dead to me. Or also the billboard outside of his window.
Oh my gosh, the Toilet King billboard, which just keeps coming up throughout the book.
I just think it's so funny because yeah, it just like continued coming up, but like this poor guy, his roommate moves out, and the landlord's like, oh, we'll just move you to the studio, it'll be cheaper for you, no worries, then you wait till like your lease is done. And like, if anyone knows, like studio apartments are really small.
Yes.
And like he only had like the one wall of windows, and the only thing he could see was this billboard, like nothing else. And it's just this plunger plunging a toilet, and it's like what, the Plunge King or something? I don't know. The Toilet King. The Toilet King. Guys, I have a really bad memory.
That's okay.
So yeah, I just think that is that's something. Oh, I don't think I could live there. Like, I think I'd go back to my landlord and be like, hey, I've been here a day. Please move me back to my old apartment.
I will pay more money to not have this billboard right outside my window.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. I agree. Okay, let's dive
get into some questions. Okay.
Also, full stop. If you have not read the book and you are planning to read the book, please stop here. And then once you've read the book, come back to this exact point, and then we don't spoil anything. But if you choose to proceed, You're not allowed to
Spoilers.
get mad that there are spoilers coming up.
No, you're not.
Okay.
So let's start spoiling. At the end of the book, Justin gives examples of the best kind of love being small things and not grand gestures. He lists the end piece of bread so his partner can have the middle, making sure her car has gas, giving her the jacket in the cold. What kind of gestures melt your heart, and what small gestures do you like, and what do you do for others in those small gestures?
Well, and I think too, like I can relate to this in a way, but like personally, it's those like small, like, well, clearly those small things. But I feel like it's that everyday act of thoughtfulness, right? And
Yes.
I know this sounds so silly, but my partner, he'll always keep a bag of Miss Vicky's chips in the pantry because
Oh my
A, they're my
gosh.
favorite, and like out of nowhere, he'll just like bring them to me, and I'm like, oh, like that was a great surprise. Or Mars bars, those are my guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
And sorry, I'm like moving away from this, but to me, this is still a thoughtful thing. And
Yeah.
for Christmas, he bought me an entire box of Mars bars, like wrapped it up as my Christmas gift.
Oh.
And yeah, like I got it as a gift, but for me, that was hilarious and purposeful because he knows that that's kind of my go-to. If I'm sad and I need chocolate, he just randomly has a Mars bar for
He's
me.
got Mars bars for you.
Even though I know that they're in the pantry too, but
It's just different when he brings it to you.
exactly. And like those small things at home, I have OCD. I think I will say that in almost every episode because the little tiny things are what I notice. So last night I came home and he had loaded the dishwasher and unloaded the dishwasher. And for me, that's huge, right? It's those tiny things. Or all of a sudden he made the bed or he changed the bed sheets and I didn't have to ask him to do it. And he just did it, right? And little things like that. And he'll also occasionally, I'll come home and wow, my car has gas. So
That's
I think that.
amazing.
And how about you? I want to know kind of what the things resonate with you before we talk about like the things that we like to do for others that kind of fill our soul.
Okay, so I drive in and out of the city. I have a bit of a commute, so I put on quite a bit of mileage, and every week my partner checks the oil in my vehicle just to make sure that it's running properly.
Oh my goodness.
So it is something that I would probably never do, and my vehicle would blow up on me, but he makes sure that the oil levels are good and that it's running smoothly, and I'm not going to have any issues that week with it.
Oh, I love that.
I love it too because Jeep problems, and I don't
Okay.
want to deal with it.
Preach. Preach. I mean, again, if anyone knows me, like my Jeep, I love Jeeps, guys, but like Jeeps are also a pain in the butt.
Big time.
I mean, this one was kind of out of my control, but I hit a deer. And I
That's
didn't.
how we met.
Yeah, she was my
Because she hit a
massage
deer.
therapist. But guys, like I hit a deer, and it took them 3.5 months to fix my car because all of the Jeep parts are patented, which means you can only buy them from Jeep. And the only place in Canada that has that big Jeep warehouse is in Ontario. And then if they don't have it, they have to get it from the States. So don't break your Jeeps, please. It's the worst thing ever. But I also wouldn't trade my Jeep for the world.
I love my Jeep.
I do love my Jeep until it breaks.
Yep.
Okay, so then what are those things that like you kind of do for others without thinking that like they're those small tiny things that other people appreciate? So like what can you do for your partner that kind of like he appreciates without him asking you?
Making sure there's leftovers in the fridge, and then when he takes them, even though I've been looking forward to them, I don't get mad when he takes my leftovers for lunch. So
I get that.
Yep.
But my partner and I both don't like leftovers. We're the worst people.
You're the weird ones.
I grew up where all my parents would do is like they'd make food and then we'd have so much of it and they're like, oh, we'll just have leftovers for dinner. And I'm like, this is the third time I've had leftovers for dinner. Which also makes it sound like my parents didn't cook. We did, but they were busy too. And we played sports and all of those things too. But I think what my partner I know he appreciates it. And laundry. His least favorite thing in the world is doing laundry. And if I'm being frank, I don't necessarily love laundry either, but I did all of the laundry last week. I hung everything up in the closet and
Wow.
he came home and he looked at me. He's like, wow, like I really appreciate that, Alessia. And I was like, it's the little thing, right? Like it was a long task to do. But if I'm home all day and it's very minimal, but it means something.
Yes, even as simple as making the bed first thing in the morning. Yeah. So you come home, your partner comes home. It's just so much nicer to crawl into a bed that's been made than a bed that is unmade.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Okay, Ree.
Yeah.
I feel like you already said this, so I feel like I should just skip this question. But were you rooting for Emma and Justin to end up together throughout this book? Were there any points where you kind of questioned if they should end up together, or were like, hey, I don't know if they're even going to end up together?
I wasn't sure if they would end up together, but I wanted them to very badly, just because Emma is a runner. She runs from everything. So I was very nervous that she was going to completely smash Justin's heart, and that would take care of the entire love story, and it would just go up in
Third
flames.
Act breakup.
Yeah, but it didn't. It comes
ends
back
on a happy
around.
ending.
It ends on a happy ending, which is so sweet, and I loved, you generally get a sense in the beginning of a book of what's going to happen, how they're going to end up together. But this one really took me through quite a few twists and turns along the way. And it was like, yes, how are they going to end up back together? What is going to be the thing that brings them back together?
And that's something with Abby's books that I really do like. I mean, again, I've only read this one, but I've heard that like they kind of all explore a very similar thing, and it makes it real. And it's not just we fell in love overnight, we're best friends, now we're going to get married, we're so in love. You see it kind of developing, and you're going through those rough patches and kind of coming out the other end. But to kind of go back to the question, I feel like even in the first chapter, when they just started talking, I was like,
their banter.
Their banter was great. This is going to work out somehow.
Yep.
Right?
I thought so too. So speaking of Emma, she talks about not letting anyone on her island, which is what she does. She gets small. She kind of folds into herself, except for Maddie and her mom are the only people she lets in on her island. What do you think happens when the only people you let in are pulling you in completely different directions? Because Maddie is her friend. She sees things as they are, and very much so calls Emma out throughout the book. But then you have her mom, who is very, very emotionally unstable, pulling her in a different direction. So you can see through the book, she's got that pull to her mom. She wants to be there. But then she also has Maddie, who's a little bit more grounded and actually sees what's going on in it.
Well, and I can understand that, like, that metaphor for that little island, right? Like, that little island is your safe space, right? It's self-protection and self-preservation, right? You've had so much happen to you throughout your life that you just want to be on an island where nobody else is. You just need that space. You need that. And having Maddie want to do one thing and her mom, like, everything's pulling. I feel like that actually, like, that just increases Emma's need to run.
Yes.
And it almost like kind of develops this thought that, is Emma going to run from these two people because of being pulled like this? And it's not something that she wants. She wants to be able to be on that island and have both of her people with her, right? And as a human, like, everyone can relate to that, right? Like, you don't want people to hurt you.
No, not at all.
Right? And I feel like it's kind of been this little island for majority of her life.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Based on her background, everything about it. She's been in that little island.
I agree. So this book says that not everything that comes out of a crisis is bad. But sometimes your traumas are the reason you know how to help others. How do you see Emma's trauma shaping the way that she does help others, or anything that she can do to support others?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, she's a nurse. So right there, she's using her trauma to help others in a very literal sense as a nurse. But then you read through the book, and there's at one point that the kids all have lice in Justin's house, which, like, okay, didn't think I was going to be reading about lice in this book. But she goes and she's able to talk with Sarah and talk about how she also got made fun of being in foster homes, and that you just have to let them do their thing and not let it affect you as much as possible. And she is able to empower Sarah to look at her situation in a little bit of a different light and get through it, and give her that kind of conversation that she needed to have that Sarah wasn't necessarily getting from her brother.
Yeah. Quick pause, because again, Alessia's brain. I have a story.
A story
about
shocking.
lice.
Don't tell me you have lice right now.
Yeah, that's why I'm telling you. No, I'm just kidding.
Just kidding.
One year, this was a long time ago, we actually went to Yellowknife for Christmas because I have family in Yellowknife.
Yep.
And we were there for probably 2 days. And my cousin won't stop scratching his head. And my uncle is like, oh my goodness, he has lice. So there's me, my little sister, my my eldest cousin. Like I don't want to name drop people. So like we're going to call my oldest cousin Alice. And my middle cousin, Robert. And the youngest one, Edward.
Okay.
So Robert has lice.
Okay.
Every single thing in that house got bagged up in black bags outside. And Robert had his head shaved. They shaved his head. And then they also shaved Edward's head. And then each of the girls, we had to go downstairs. And my grandma, actually, she washed all of our hair like 4 times with tea tree oil.
Yep.
With our head in the sink, not even in a shower, our head down in the basement sink. And do you know how bad tea tree oil burns your eyeballs? So then she braided our hair so tight, and all of us just had these tight braids, and my 2 youngest cousins were head shaved bald. And there's a photo of us at Christmas, like in this, and it is probably the funniest photo I've ever seen in my life. Remind me, I'll show you it. But it's just kind of like when I start reading about lice, it's the instant picture that comes to my brain because it sucks, insanely sucks. But yeah, like it also leads to a good story afterwards, kind of.
After it's all gone.
It's one of those things, it sucks in the moment, but then after it's a joke.
Yes. Big time.
Yeah. So
yeah. Emma, let's just keep talking about Emma.
Yeah, I agree.
She's got this big connection to her suitcases. You know, you see that she leaves them under the bed. She doesn't like to unpack them, that kind of thing. Why do you think she holds on to them so tightly? And how does that connect to her past? I mean, I just kind of explained how it connects to her past.
Well, I was going to say, you just said that too, right? Where it's that urgency and need to run, right? And I think that that's also why she's a travel nurse in a way. She doesn't want to stay in one place at a time for too long. Like she wants to keep going. And I think, again, it creates that sense of her little island. She doesn't want to be there long enough to form any new relationships. She wants to be there. She wants to be with Maddie. She wants to do her job. She wants to help others without forming those emotional connections because she's just going to leave. She doesn't want to stay. And it's like this need to flee, right? Yeah. And I think those suitcases kind of show her that you can run. You can leave anytime your bags are packed. If something happens, get up and leave.
Grab them and go.
Yeah.
She's a foot out the door kind of girl for pretty much her entire life. And through most of this book, that's how she acts.
Yeah. And I think too, like something as people who go through trauma, and like maybe this isn't related to suitcases, but someone who goes through trauma, unfortunately, sometimes becomes that person that people turn to.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, if I go through a very traumatic experience and a couple years later, my friend goes through a very similar traumatic experience and they come to you and they're like, Alessia, like, how did you get through this? What did you do? Or they kind of dump what happened on you. And as a human, like, I get triggered too. And like those things are really hard for me to talk through with others, but because of the type of human I am, I let them rant to me. I let them tell me all those things. And I tell them like, it doesn't get easier. And this is what I did. And then I go home and I'm triggered and I'm overwhelmed and I'm by myself on my little island. But you kind of become those people that people turn to and people ask questions, right? And I'm not using myself as, like, I am clearly using myself as an example here, but I think that that's something with Emma too, is even the foster care, right? She had that experience and she talked and she shared about it. And it can be a very hard thing to share about, especially when you have varied experiences, right? So I think that that's something else that kind of keeps her on the run, right? Because it's just too much to like take on other people's baggage. So she'll just grab her own and out the door. Yep. Right? I mean, okay, we're going to talk about things that like they're clearly directly related to the book. Did you hear that? That was such a wild. I I couldn't say related, but it's such, okay, freeze, Alessia, let's get this back in order.
Just take a deep breath.
I was going to make a comment, but I feel like it's just not the right time. So I was going to say, just breathe in that nice air in this studio.
From this plant.
From this plant that's in between us. And I mean that in the best way, that like appreciate that we have this air right now. Air. So Ree, do you think that there should be an app invented where you could rate and leave reviews about old boyfriends or people like you've connected with on apps or gone on dates with?
Absolutely. There is a little bit of something like this on Facebook. They call it, "Are we dating the same guy? Insert whatever city that you're in." So women can go on, leave positive. There's not very many positive reviews of men. They can leave negative stories. They can ask about men that they're looking to go on dates with. So there is a bit of something like that already. Should there be an app? Absolutely.
Okay, but can we just say on the flip side of this, so you're funny.
Thank you.
That was pretty cheesy.
Too. It was a dad joke.
That was so cheesy. I'll give it to you though. It was pretty good.
I love cheese. I love cheese so much.
My favorite's Gouda. If you don't know where that's from, please go
watch
educate yourself. But what I was gonna say though, on the flip side, what if men had an app where they can rate us? And like personally, I don't want to go on an app and be like, oh my god, there's my name.
Yeah.
Oh no,
what are they saying about me?
I don't want to check the reviews. Like that's terrifying. So like I agree to an extent, but also like I feel like I just would never be able to go on and look if there was one for females.
No.
I don't know. Would men go on and look at their reviews?
Probably. Absolutely.
LB, would you go on and look at the reviews if there was a dating site that rated you?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, you would.
Totally.
Okay, but would it ruin your day if there was... Okay, so you would use it as a self-improvement thing.
Meanwhile, I would cry.
Yeah, I would also be crying. You know what? No, I
would cry.
I'm thinking about my exes and how many of them would have good things to say about me, and I think... For the most part, I would have favorable reviews.
Okay, you're not wrong. I feel like I'd probably have like one or two bad ones.
Yeah,
but, you know,
but that's,
it was accidental, and I was 18 years old.
Yeah, I didn't mean to steal your dog and hold her hostage for a few months.
I didn't mean to create a triangle of whoops. I once went on a date with a guy where my ex-boyfriend went on a date with that guy's sister, and we both didn't know. And then we both broke up with them, and it was so awkward. Because yeah.
Can you imagine if you would have had like
it was
Christmas
like a square.
Together?
It was like a love square. Because yeah, it was so awkward. That's probably where I'd get the worst review. But you know, again, very long time ago.
Yeah, we change. People change. They're allowed to change, and we will let them change and then assess them with where they're at.
I mean, okay, so then if you were reading a Reddit thread and you commented on this and now you start talking with a guy, do you think you'd actually go on a date with this person?
Yes. I mean, not right now because I'm in a committed relationship, but a little bit of backstory. Once upon a time, I was married.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Once upon a time.
It's clearly not anymore, which is fine. I'm okay to talk about it. But we met on Instagram.
Oh.
Yeah.
He slid into your DMs?
I don't remember if it was him or if it was me, but we had been into the same stuff. So yeah, I think if that came up in my life, I would definitely like entertain the idea of a date off of a Reddit thread.
Well, and I think I'd be like a little cautious and like...
I throw caution to the wind, so that is.
But like, what if you showed up and it's like some catfish, and you're like, "Okay, sayonara." Like, this was not fun.
Yeah. Well, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah. Speaking of winning some and losing some, public proposals.
No.
Because they talk about them in the book. No. Okay. Full stop. We're a no with that.
They called it like a hostage situation, and like, let's be real.
Yep.
If somebody got proposed to in public, if it's not me, the secondhand embarrassment I would feel, I would have to leave. it would make me like uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And like, I have secondhand embarrassment when I watch movies.
Mm-hmm.
I've never finished the movie Confessions of a Shopaholic because every time the debt collector showed up, I would just like, no,
get so embarrassed for her.
Right? And there's this one Amy Schumer movie where she falls and hits her head, and she thinks that like she's like this different human.
Yes.
Some of the things that she would say, I was like, oh no, I can't. And it made me uncomfortable, so I'd have to stop watching it.
Oh my gosh. Yep.
Yeah. So like in that situation, I would flee.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if my partner ever attempted to do a proposal in public, I don't even think I think I would walk away.
Yeah.
And then call him later and be like, can you please come inside where it's private and we can do this again?
Let's be alone now.
Yeah. Like, I'm not doing that.
I think we're alone now.
Cue music.
Yep.
Could you imagine?
Oh my gosh. If you had a job where you got to choose a new city every 3 months, what would be your top 3 destinations and what would be on your hell no list?
Okay, but I feel like it would depend like what my profession was. So like I'm just gonna imagine that I'm a travel nurse because I feel like that's the best way to do this. I agree with Maddie. I want to go to Hawaii. I love Hawaii.
Oh, yep.
Hawaii's the bomb.com. And did you know that in Hawaii they don't have snakes and spiders?
Sign me up, fam.
They have a very strict, like when things come in on boats, like
they check everything.
Yeah, it doesn't come on to Hawaii because it's so isolated, right? Where else would I want to go? To be honest, I'd probably go to Australia. Like if
everything there wants to kill you. Like you talk about Hawaii being a nice little island with no spiders and snakes. You go to Australia. How much of that is there?
Okay,
all of it.
Okay, you're not wrong. But like, can we just take a second here? I'm gonna retract the Australia one and say New Zealand.
Okay, yep, there we go. New Zealand.
New Zealand is different because New Zealand is very similar to Hawaii in what they let in. Like when you fly into New Zealand, your shoes have to be so clean or they will take them away. Like you can't have dirt from anywhere else on your shoes.
I've actually seen where you go on hikes and they make you wash your shoes before you go through the hike. I think that's fantastic. What a great way to protect your very sensitive ecosystem.
Exactly. And like they are very different than Australia in like terms of what they have and everything like that. And plus they have the Hobbit Shire.
Yes. So that's pretty
clear. And they have so many sheep and lambs. Whatever. I think it would be wild. And then where else would I go? I feel like, to be honest, I would also want to go somewhere where like I feel that I could make an impact. And like I feel like something like not Haiti, but like something like
more of a third world country
like,
where you can have
I can't
an
think
impact.
of like a specific place off the top of my brain, but like I know my dad used to go to El Salvador.
Yep.
And he actually built houses. And like he would go for a week and they would build these houses and they got to be a part of the community and they got to do all these things.
Yeah.
And he would come home and it was such a thing for him that it just fulfilled that like need to help others. So as much as I love Hawaii and I love New Zealand and I would pick another, like, maybe I'll go to Rome, but like at the same time, I want to make a difference. So like something like that, I think would be my yes. My hell no. No offense, Canada. I don't want to go to the territories unless it's summertime.
Okay.
So it's like a minor hell no, hell yes. It's fucking cold.
Situational.
Excuse the French, but like it's cold. And I know that like a lot of people in the territories get locum positions. Yeah. So like you fly in for a certain amount of time and you fly out. So it's very similar to a travel nurse.
Yeah.
But I don't think that I could fly into Iqaluit and like be there for an extended period of time because it's either 24 hours of light or 24 hours of darkness. And like, yes, throughout the year it changes, but like it's such a small and isolated place that I don't know if it would be the place for me to go for like 3 months.
No, that would be tough.
Okay, question goes back to you now.
So I would probably die if I had to move every 3 months. I have moved like 7 times in the last 5 years. So to move now every 3 months, no, I couldn't do it. I have way too much stuff. Plus my mom, my sister, and my sister-in-law are all nurses, and fuck No. I don't want to be a nurse.
I don't want to be a nurse. Let me put it this way. I was using it in a context to like
for this, yeah,
because you couldn't pay me enough to be a nurse, and like
good for them. I'm super happy for everybody who wants
nurses.
To be them. I appreciate them too. Not me.
No, I'm not changing bedpans.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not putting an IV in your arm. No.
I don't want to be responsible for keeping you alive. And I know doctors do that, but like nurses are the ones that monitor everything. And then if something goes south and they push the button and the doctors all come.
Yeah.
But like
they do a lot.
It's a lot of work, and I don't think people recognize how much work it is.
No.
And I understand now why we have such a lack of nurses, because they are specific in getting into those programs, because it is important that they're trained correctly.
Yeah.
Right?
Big time.
Okay, continue. You didn't actually
tell me
anywhere.
No, I would not move every 3 months. Like that, absolutely not.
Can we change this to be hypothetical?
If you were a person if I had to do it, if I could, if I would. For work though, that's so tough. Like all I can think about is how much all of that change would stress me out as a human.
Girl, you
like
gotta
it's
let
just
that
too
go.
much.
It's all hypothetical.
I know.
So let me change it. What are the top 3 places that you would want to go to? Not necessarily for 3 months, and not necessarily for work.
Oh my gosh. Well, I have a girlfriend who is about to move to Dubai, so I want to go visit her. I would love to go to the Maldives, and I think
I want to go to Bali.
Yeah, Bali would be really cool too.
And I feel like I wouldn't want to work in those places. But
no,
I get it.
This is all, it's hypothetical. In this hypothetical situation, I have a sugar daddy who's taking me everywhere.
Sugar grandpa.
Sugar grandpa.
As you learned from last episode, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and watch
episode that one.
2. Where would be like your biggest hell no destination? And I know that sounds bad because I don't want to like discriminate against places. And there's a lot of places that like I want to go everywhere, but there's a lot of places that like aren't necessarily safe to travel to at this point in time.
Jersey.
Oh yeah.
New Jersey, absolutely not. It is the armpit of America. I cried in that airport. They were so mean to me when I had to go through TSA. Oh, it was awful. Never again. Will not go to Jersey.
I hate Denver.
Ooh, what?
I've never actually been outside of the airport in Denver.
Oh, but you just hate the airport.
I've just had really bad experiences. Okay. And it's happened twice. Where like on my way to a cruise, they lost my luggage.
Devastating.
I was 14 years old.
Just
I had no clothes. I had no clothes.
Yeah.
Like clearly I had the clothes on that I was wearing.
Yeah.
But
naked in the airport.
I don't think WestJet lets you get on the plane if you're naked.
No, I'm pretty sure that's a big red flag and you're on the
What if I was
list.
wearing like a sheet toga? Would they let me on the plane?
Can you imagine going through like security in a sheet toga and they'd be like, ma'am, you have to remove what you're wearing.
Ma'am, do you have anything in your pockets?
Yeah.
Do you have any metal on you?
Deep into my pockets.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Could you imagine just fresh out of a toga run, just hop on the plane?
Oh, get cold.
Okay, but I'd probably have spandex on, so it's like not as gross. Still.
One time, speaking of inappropriately going through TSA, I was wearing just a bunny hug and a pair of sweater and a pair of joggers, and they were like, "Ma'am, you have to take your bunny hug off." So I go to take it off, and I was just wearing a sports bra. And when I got down to there, they're like, "No, keep it on, keep it on." And I was like, "Oh, okay, so I can keep it on." They're like, "If you're not wearing a shirt," I'm like, "Oh, that's not okay." Like,
you're like,
my bad.
That's clothing discrimination.
Yeah,
but like honestly, so Denver, they lost my luggage. I got to Florida. We had 2 days in Florida. I still didn't get my luggage in the 2 days.
Oh no.
So they sent money and they're like, hey, go buy like a new suitcase and clothing.
Yeah.
This was back in the day when they actually gave you things. So we ended up going on a massive shopping spree, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, things aren't as expensive. And I think they gave me $500, which for a 14-year-old, I can get
That's quite a bit of money.
So I got some nice stuff.
Yeah.
And it's the night before we get on the cruise. Still don't have my luggage.
You don't have your luggage.
Oh, I was like, what are we alluding to here?
We're listening to the trash truck.
Gotcha. Basically, my luggage met us on the cruise ship.
Oh, okay. Happy ending.
They delivered it to the cruise ship. So I got on the boat and like my luggage was in the room, which is wild.
Bougie.
Because I had gone onto the boat thinking, fuck, I'm not gonna have any clothing.
I have nothing.
I don't have all my stuff. I don't have my blanket. I don't have anything. And then again, we were traveling to where were we going? We were going to Texas.
Yeah.
They left my luggage in Denver, but it got there the next day because they're quicker now.
So it did come.
Yeah. So me and Denver just have this like moment.
Oh man.
Okay.
Do we have any questions, or are we wrapping up the book?
I have one more. I have one more.
One more. Let's go.
Well, 1.5.
Okay.
Okay. So Abby's writing style is known for its humor and heartfelt moments. What were some of the moments in the book that made you laugh, cry, or feel very deeply?
Well, I already put out a few of those quotes that I felt really deeply. I have a few more that I'd like to read through. So they're talking about unhealed trauma, Justin and Emma, and she is trying to get Justin to understand trauma. So they go on to say unhealed trauma is a crack, and all the little things that trickle into it that would have rolled off someone else settle. When life gets cold, the crack gets bigger, longer, deeper. It makes new breaks. You don't know how broken they were or what they were trying to do to fill those cracks. Being broken is not an excuse for bad behavior. You still have to make good choices and do the right thing, but it can be the reason, and sometimes understanding the reason is what helps you heal.
I resonated with that one too. Sorry, I have my phone out because I took a picture of them because, of course, it's on Goodreads.
Yep. And then another one that made me feel so deeply, it's towards the end of the book, and this one's just sentimental, and it just made me feel all lovey about my partner, is Justin puts a hand to Emma's cheek, and he says, sometimes I feel like the seasons could come and go and come and go. 100 years could pass, 1,000. The ground could collapse under us. This house could crumble and go back to the earth, and we would still be standing here frozen in time because every second I'm with you is eternal. I've never felt anything like it.
That's precious.
Oh, and it just made my heart melt.
I feel like that's one of those things I would actually probably like I did read it, guys. But they read it out loud to me, so it was almost different. And I feel like reading it on a page, it would just really like fill your eyes, right?
It really did.
Okay, again, I have them on my phone because I listened to them and then on Goodreads, right? Yep. So I think I have two.
Okay.
So the first one is, you are not what happened to you. Mm-hmm. You are what you do next. And I think that that's huge, right? Because like something bad can happen to you, but it's what you do after that, and like how you react, how you heal, how you do those things after.
Yes.
And I remember reading it and I was like, yeah, like I feel that to the core. Like I really resonate there. Yep. And then we kind of go back to that concept of the island for the next one. And it's, I became an island, and the island is small. I don't need anyone. And I know that sort of sounds terrible, but it's comforting to know that I have this ability to need no one. It feels like a superhero, like I'm untouchable. And I highlighted this because I know for myself, again, like I went through trauma when I was like a really big traumatic event at 20. And I know that I felt like I put myself kind of on an island because I felt like that was the only way to heal. And I learned very quickly that's not the way to heal. The superpower isn't isolating yourself. The superpower is working through things and like being able to identify why you're doing those things. And I think, again, like that island is beneficial sometimes, but it's also beneficial to make that island a bit bigger and let people come, right?
Yes, develop a, like she says, I want a village.
Yeah, you can't do it alone.
No, we need a village.
Yeah, and I like my village of humans.
Aw, that's so precious.
I mean, you're included.
Thank you. I love being in your village.
You're a new addition. Not everybody is familiar with you yet.
Not yet.
Soon.
Not yet.
Soon.
I have one more funny thing about this book, and then we're going to wrap it up. But obviously, he is the good luck charm, and anyone he dates goes on to meet their soulmate. I actually have a friend in my life who is like this. He is a good luck Chuck. Good luck charm. Is his name
actually Chuck?
No, it's not.
Could you imagine?
I told him I wouldn't say his name on the podcast,
so
because
he's
it
Chuck.
would be. We're just going to call him Chuck. So if there is a female that is the female version of Good Luck Chuck and you are looking for a partner, do I have a deal for you? Come meet my buddy, break your curses together, and maybe you'll find a long-term life partner.
Who knows? We could put a discount code in the bio to
Oh my gosh.
connect with
Exactly.
Good Luck Chuck. Isn't that the name of a movie?
It is the name of a movie with the same concept.
Huh. That movie's old. What's his name?
Oh my gosh.
He's like
He's
a
that
comedian.
comedian. Yes. And he's kind of an a-hole, but he's really funny.
I haven't seen anything about him in years.
Yeah, it's Dane Cook.
Dane Cook.
Yep.
I haven't seen anything about
Thanks,
Dane
LB.
Cook in years. Okay, but it's really good. I remember
It is
watching it
awesome.
multiple times. But no, guys, this was a really great book. I'm really glad we picked it, honestly.
Me too.
And we actually have another really, really great book kind of coming up.
Yes.
So, drum roll, please. Next week we have an author joining us, which is our first time ever having an author.
Not next week, but next episode.
Oh, right, guys. I always say next week, but
That's
it is
okay.
the next
It is
episode.
basically next week.
So,
it's just a few weeks ahead.
So really, so she's from Calgary. She is half Italian like myself, and
Yay.
there's so many like family connections and everything. So she's related to my Zia, which is actually my mom's best friend. But I know that her and I have a connection growing up as well, and we'll kind of touch on that when we meet her. But we are going to be reading Favorite Daughter. It is a very new book. It came out maybe a month ago, and it's written by Morgan Dick. So she is, like I said, she's from Calgary. This is a sharply funny and tender story about two strangers with only one thing in common, their father. So I'm really excited to read this one. I've heard nothing but good things from like her book launch and from interviews and everything. So we are really excited to dive into this one and kind of get to discuss it with Morgan. So I'm really excited. So again, pick up your copy of Favorite Daughter by Morgan Dick. I'm not entirely sure if it's in Saskatoon yet, but follow her on Instagram. I know that she is selling them. I don't believe, like I know they're in Calgary at certain bookstores like Shelf
Indigo
Life.
does have them.
Just kidding. Indigo has it.
Yep.
Go to Indigo and get your copy and read along with us. I think it's going to be an awesome episode. And guys, if you do read the book and you have questions that you want to ask Morgan, just send us a DM and we will actually ask her and say, so-and-so asked you this question. So we're really excited about this. The last thing I want to touch base on is our blind date with a book giveaway.
Yes, but before we get to the blind date with the book giveaway, we're actually going to be giving away 2 copies of this book as well. We
Right.
almost forgot about. So to get in on this lovely giveaway, all that we're doing is the first 2 people to DM us saying they watched the episode.
No, I
No?
thought we decided it was going to be people who told us stories about their siblings or when they were an older sister, the funniest story they have
Yes.
as a sibling.
Yep.
And then what it is Ree's going to pick one that she either thinks is the funniest or resonates, and then I'm going to pick one because
So reiterate that.
I like that idea. Like,
Yeah.
we could do it that way, but I feel like it's more personal. And
Okay.
please feel free to change your siblings' names or to change your name. It doesn't matter. But I want to hear your favorite moments with your siblings or your funniest stories. And maybe you're someone who does have a half sibling.
Yep.
And tell us that story. I mean, share what you're comfortable sharing.
And we'll pick a couple winners from that.
And Rhea, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, please do. I have
just-
it written down differently, so I'm glad you corrected me.
Sorry, you know how I am.
That's perfect.
That's how I am. But yeah, read the book with us, and you might
Amazing.
even get to win a copy of it.
Yeah, and also shout out to Heather who won our blind date with a book as well via Instagram. Now that we have our Spotify episode out for episode 1, this one should be coming out on Spotify eventually. We're going to be on YouTube. Follow us at Not That Kind of Book Club on Instagram. And again, thanks so much for following along with us and being a part of our journey here. We are so excited for episode 4 with Morgan Dick coming up soon. And until then,
Remember, we read it so you don't have to.